Many people today resist seeking their soulmate. One must be proactive and open to the search for a relationship. Today, Nacho, I'd say there's a lot of fear among many people to engage in a human relationship.
Sparks that I don't remember. Hold and let it shine. Fix and start to fade away. Fix and start to fade away. Fix and start to fade away.
Hi, dear friends of Kabbalah Podcast. I'm with Mario Sabán here again. Cheers, Mario.
Shalom, Nacho. How are you?
I'm doing great, living a spectacular time.
Oh, great. I can only congratulate you. I'm very happy for you.
You mentioned to me backstage that I was a person who was a Beinonim.
We're all Beinonim people.
No, let's not start there. Better not open that door, because things could get messy. Well, as you know, today we are going to talk about soulmates.
That's right. Spiritual soulmates is a good topic. First of all, there's something very important that needs to be said for everyone, especially to bring people a sense of calm. We need to reassure people because many believe that life gives you one soulmate, and that's not exactly the case. Why not? Because we all belong to a soul root, and within that root we are connected to multiple soulmate energies. Now, of course, when someone finds a soulmate on a very high level, someone who becomes their life partner and with whom they can share on a very elevated energetic level, we commonly refer to that person as a soulmate. But that doesn't mean, for example, that two very close friends cannot be soulmates, or that a parent and a child cannot be soulmates. In other words, soulmates should not be understood only in terms of romantic relationships. Whenever people talk about soulmates, they tend to reduce the concept to the idea of a couple. So what I would say here is, be careful. We are not only talking about romantic relationships, but about many kinds of relationships in which there is a very high level of affinity between souls. For example, two friends who feel like sisters. How many friends feel more like sisters than actual sisters? And you might ask, how can that be? It's not that they don't love their sister, they do, but with this friend there is a bond that goes beyond sisterhood, and the person feels that this individual is a soulmate for them. So the first thing I would emphasize about this topic is this. Let's open the concept of soulmates beyond romantic relationships. If you'd like, we can return later to talk specifically about couples, but be careful not to reduce the idea of soulmates solely to partnership.
I had a very transgressive thought. I remembered Roberto Galán.
That was quite satanic. The people all over the world will not know. They will not know. You can explain it if you want.
Well, it was a television program where there was a gentleman who gathered older people so they could find their partner. The TV show was called I Want to Get Married and You?
Argentine TV.
That reveals quite a bit about how old I am. Well, meaning my grandmother used to watch this TV show, and I watched it too.
Right. Well, your grandmother watched it because she was interested. Well, she wanted to look for a candidate.
I remember she as a very calm person. She didn't want any suitors. To give you an idea, my grandfather was the only man in her life.
Very well. Perhaps she understood that she had met her soulmate, and that she did not wish to have another relationship.
It's probable. There is something I found very beautiful. Returning to the topic of the couple, of something that is gathered from Rabbi Akiva. As you know, who says that the precept to love your neighbor as yourself says that it is completely fulfilled within the context of the couple. So I found it interesting, right? Not to think about it from a romantic perspective, because whenever soulmates are discussed, it seems like the universe is turning pink and little flowers and butterflies start to appear. and I think it is something much deeper. And there is also something else that I consider also interesting that I have been contemplating, which is that the notion of a soulmate is often interpreted as something, you know, as something predestined, as something that already comes with the soul's inherent mission in some way. You know what I mean. But I also think that it is a construction, it is a process, it is the interaction that develops between people that build something, and many times that soulmate is someone who helps you to do a rectification process too.
There are many variables here, Nacho. In Kabbalah, there are many variables, and one has to proceed very carefully because there are many facets to consider. In what sense are there many facets? Sometimes, and you might ask how this relates to the topic of soulmates, but it does, and you'll see why. There are souls that cannot help you as much unless they have passed away first. When a father or a mother dies and crosses to the other side, the soulmate you had not yet found can be helped by them in finding you. This is quite an interesting point, probably not very widely developed within Kabbalah, and not talked about much, but we are here precisely to address topics that are usually left unspoken. There are times when a person feels, of course, the loss of a mother or a father very deeply. It is very painful, but they do not realize that when the souls of a father and mother pass to the other side, they can help the person more in the search for their soulmate. It is as if they mark the direction more clearly from the other side than from this side. Some souls seem to gain a greater guiding force once they cross over. As a result, there are people who do not find their soulmate until a father or a mother from the other side supports them energetically. This is the first point. Secondly, there are periods in a person's life in which one learns with each soul one is meant to live with during that time. Many people spend 10, 15, or 20 years with someone, then separate. Why do they separate? Because there was a learning experience there. Now, if it truly is a soulmate, there is no way to escape it, in the sense that you remain bound to that soulmate. This is not a relationship you can simply walk away from. When the soul finds its soulmate, it becomes destined and bound, because in reality, it is the same soul. According to Kabbalah, it is a single soul that divides into two, and when they descend into the world, they search for each other in order to become a united soul again. Therefore, there is no way for that relationship to be broken. They are called soulmates because inexorably they must end up together. There is something that draws them to one another. Of course, Jung explained something similar from the perspective of psychology when he said that what you see in the other person is what you would see if you yourself were of the other gender. That is, you see in the other person how you would want to be. From the point of view of Kabbalah, however, this goes deeper because it is an energetic issue rather than a projection onto a particular gender. It is deeper in the sense that it is about energy, and when we speak of energies, we are entering a realm that has nothing to do with heterosexuality or homosexuality. In other words, soulmates can be found in any type of gender. This leaves the question open. I do not want to enter the moral terrain, because as you know, in Kabbalah we do not deal with morality. That belongs to religion. When two souls are soulmates, it is independent of whether the relationship is heterosexual or homosexual. When two soulmates meet, there is no definition in terms of gender. They meet and they meet. We have a very clear example of this in the figure of David and Jonathan in the Torah, in the Hebrew Bible, where we could say that Jonathan and David loved each other in a certain sense as soulmates.
There is something I have been able to experience or at least witness through family issues, where I have found, for example, at dinner, where there was a man sitting there who was accompanied by his former wife, whom he had met a long time ago, many years prior, from whom he was divorced, and his current wife was also present. And my wife and I noticed something. The way that man looked at his ex-wife and that ex-wife looked at him, there was a deep connection, almost I would say telepathic. They didn't need to speak to understand each other, or at least that's how it seemed. And the poor woman today seemed disoriented, the new one. She seemed disoriented and was taking photos without communicating, without realizing it. And something was perceived, let's say, very deep, very intense between those two people, which was not reflected in that person's current relationship. So, yes, absolutely, the connection exists regardless. The question is it possible that two people can be twin souls irrespective of them not being together?
In Kabbalah, what may have happened in the case you are describing is that these two people, the ex-husband and the ex-wife, may have known each other in a previous lifetime and did not fully close or complete the experience. In that case, it may not be a soulmate relationship. Rather, it could be that the experience from a past life remained unfinished, and they met again in this lifetime in order to bring it to closure, after which each could go on and follow their own path.
Oh, how interesting.
That does happen. What happens is that this can occur in many different ways, not only in the example you mentioned. It can happen that there is a marriage and suddenly one person's soulmate appears, or someone from a previous lifetime appears in order to bring closure to something unfinished. There are a great many lovers involved in such situations, and this does not fall within the realm of morality. Religions come along and say, this is wrong, but Kabbalah does not approach it from a moral standpoint. Rather, when we look deeply into these kinds of relationships, we often see either souls that did not complete their covenants in previous lives, or soulmates who appear when a person feels they have found their true soulmate after having been married for 20 years to someone else with whom they never felt what they now feel with the soulmate. Therefore, one must be very
Yes.
respectful of all these situations because there are hundreds of cases that can be understood from a spiritual point of view. But then we have social morality on the other side. And of course, from the point of view of social morality, that morality is repressive toward all of these cases, whereas the spiritual world is not repressive. The spiritual world is about understanding the situation, and we must be careful because morality often attacks by claiming that understanding a situation is the same as justifying immorality. This is where things become very delicate. We enter a very dangerous territory because religious morality attacks these kinds of spiritual aspects by labeling them as immoral. The person who is living this experience does not feel immoral. They feel that they are living a very specific energetic situation, one that is very serious for them, because it is not easy for someone, after 20 years, to suddenly encounter their soulmate. In fact, the person would like to live their whole life calmly and peacefully, but when a soulmate appears, it puts their entire sense of morality into question. Therefore, when it comes to religious morality or even secular non-religious morality, one must be very careful because spiritual aspects are energetic in nature and do not belong to the realm of constructing cultural morality. Spirituality is far more understanding of the situations that arise, of the inner logic that these situations contain. For this reason, why does Freud come into the picture? Because in the end, Freud would say, since we have no way to understand what is happening here, we must repress it because what is happening belongs to the instinctual order. But it is not that someone meets a lover on an instinctual level, they meet them on an energetic level. What religious morality represses is not instinctual, it is energetic. This is where we must be very careful, because it seems to me that Freud was mistaken in thinking that everything was instinctual. Instinct is indeed instinct, that is true, but there is also an energetic force that leads that instinct to be expressed with one particular person and not with another. If it were purely instinctual, as Freud would claim, it would be with anyone. But it is not purely instinctual, because energetically, the person becomes bonded to another person at a soul level. Therefore, what religious morality or secular morality represses is not instinct, but the energetic dimension of the spiritual world that then manifests itself through instinct.
But that is because we in Kabbalah know that there are different levels of
Sure,
the soul.
What drives that instinctive thing is not itself instinctive. What drives it is something energetic. It is an energetic matter, something that happens on an energetic level. And once again, I repeat that there are cases in which a soulmate appears in the lives of people who have been living very calmly with their partner for 10 or 20 years, and they say, now an unrest appears that I never wanted for my life. In other words, even at the level of consciousness, they do not want to enter into this kind of situation. And there are hundreds of such cases, Nacho. What happens is that people do not speak about them publicly, they speak about them in therapy. Hundreds of cases in which you can clearly see the person's experience. First, the happiness of finding that kind of energetic relationship, and then the suffering caused by social morality in the face of that situation.
That's why these spaces exist, the Kabbalah Podcast, so that if any of you wish to share any kind of experience, if you have found your soulmate, if you are looking for her, or if you know someone who has found their soulmate, please leave. As we always say, we invite you to share your comments and express to all of us your thoughts and your feelings. Mario, there's something that caught my attention that I want to share with you, which I read about the Talmudic sources, which states that the Talmud declares that 40 days prior to the formation of the embryo, a heavenly voice decrees the pairing of individuals. What do you think about this?
From the point of view of Kabbalah, I reiterate to you, the pairing is not pairing. Pairing is a division of a higher unity, which means that one is already predestined, in one way or another, to arrive at that soul.
I imagine there must be, let's say, souls that share the identical root origin. Infinite, right? Millions.
Yes. But one must have, of course, I understand what you are saying, but one must have a certain caution that, yes, of course, but not all end up establishing the same relationship.
That's why
Yes, I know.
there would be polygamy.
In any case, I believe that polygamy was a topic that was more political than it was related to
Social
energy.
organization, really?
Social organization, exactly. So no, we are not going to bring up polygamy as justification here because I see where you are going with this. No, but let's say what I mean is, what is happening in the current world? In Kabbalah, this does not happen. This concept I am going to bring up is not from Kabbalah, that many times they say, well, because it's the twin flame, and it's not the soulmate. Well, in Kabbalah, there is no concept of a twin flame. There is the concept of a soulmate. And that's why I'm telling you that there are different levels. But what must be taken into account for me, the first point that needs to be clarified, and which I consider fundamental, is that souls appear so that our soul can learn in each period of its life, in each stage of its existence. So we are saying that, first of all, souls appear and give us information. The soulmate does not give me information, it directly completes me entirely. So we are talking, if you like, about two categories. One category includes all the souls I encounter, those that do not belong to my same soul root, which provide me with information. For me, this is tikkun, the essential work of the soul. And the other is, when I find my soulmate, the amount of information I receive is exactly what I needed to complete my tikkun. Having a soulmate is truly a great advantage guiding me on my path. And before reaching the soulmate, there's another process to clarify. Many people today resist seeking their soulmate. One must be proactive and open to the search for a relationship. Today, Nacho, I'd say there's a lot of fear among many people to engage in a human relationship. Meaning, now they are taking refuge in the idea that artificial intelligence is going to create types of artificial partners. I don't know how far we will get with this, but I believe that all relationships are fundamentally healthy. People talk to plants, I think that's fine. People have cats and dogs, I also think that's fantastic. But we are talking about the human relationship. Challenges the individual's development, and I believe many people are seeking refuge in various substitutes to avoid confronting an intimate and close relationship. I think people are very scared of this, and that fear shapes their choices. Excuse me if you wanted to tell me something.
Because I think you will reveal how one can access that kind of connection. But don't do it until 15 seconds from now. Hey Mario, you're looking tan from the lights. What's going on with you?
I don't see you. Who are you?
Here, I am Nacho.
Hey, Nacho. How are you? This light is killing me. I need sunglasses.
Listen, there's another eye watching us. There are a lot of people back there. Hey, you, over there on the other side. Give it a like, subscribe, and join us. And if you want to collaborate in a more active way, here there is a QR that allows you to help us to continue and keep doing this podcast. You also have it in the link below in the comments. And on this Patreon, you'll find an online Kabbalah course in English to help transform your life and become happier. Mario, next time?
Sunglasses. Umbrella.
Yes, umbrella. Well, Mario, I know you won't provide a revelation for everyone to find their soulmate, but it was helpful for me to...
No, that's perfect. Nevertheless, I maintain, Nacho, right here, that someone, if they want to be responsible for a growth, certainly, there are also people who search for their soulmate and fail to find them.
Yes.
But I believe that in the search lies the meaning, as Sharabi, the great Kabbalist from Yemen, used to say, in the sense that the individual must be open and must actively seek outwardly. Even if it is not the soulmate, they can find a person who accompanies them for a few years and from whom they can learn. But I think that, I am not yet sure, we would need to conduct a sociological analysis of the reason why there are so many people who are afraid of relationships and who settle into a situation of a safety zone while being alone, and which I think is reaching a point of no return. We are facing a problem. I think the spirituality of Kabbalah has a lot to say here. It always pushes for a couple, naturally respecting everyone who, by their own free choice, decides to remain single. However, remaining solitary places a lot of people into a comfort zone that proves harmful. This zone of security isn't solely a mental form of worship, rather, it is also connected to that element of avoiding emotional commitment. Many people say, for example, I'll lose my independence if I partner up. And indeed, they will need to allocate available time if they wish to establish that relationship. Consequently, there is a kind of selfishness, if you will, or narcissism in today's society where the person does not open up, does not expose themselves to the other. And I think this can be very dangerous for the tikkun. Not opening up to others is becoming dangerous for personal rectification.
Totally, Mario. Thank you very much, Mario. But first we'll earn some points and send a kiss to our soulmates.
And of course, I always, she already knows she is my soulmate and that I am always in contact with her at every possible moment and in every possible place. So a huge kiss.
Shalom.